John Neate, thank you for joining me here for this special series, COVID-19 Leadership in a Crisis. How is this crisis affecting your business?
I guess the better question, how is it not affecting my business?
Yeah.
It's we've closed 16 out of 26 stores. Our wholesale business, which we supply about 250 locations, is down to about 4 people we're supplying. It's like Whole Foods and Meinhardt's and our cold brew customer. We've laid off about 250 staff out of 360, and so those other staff that are remaining, our stores are on kind of half hours. All the Toronto stores are closed, and all our stores right now are just takeout only. Been ahead of every government mandate. We closed all the seating. We did takeout only starting last Thursday. Today, put in strips in all our stores, marks on the terms of to keep the social distance of 6 feet. Demanding that if people there's some that aren't taking it seriously, and they're just waiting for their coffee and just mingling and talking close to each other, and it's kind of it's tough. We've some people are great. The other people make the other people that are waiting upset.
Mm-hmm.
Which and our staff is absolutely amazing. I mean, the reason we've closed so many stores is we've told people if you don't feel comfortable, don't come to work. If you want to, great. And so we've been closing stores based on what our staff want and trying to be totally understanding. Anybody that wants to go on the temporary layoff, but they're getting, I think, EI is 66%. So the people that want to work are, making 100%. So they're happier with that. And so many of them are struggling with how they're going to pay their rent on April 1st. I'm just frantically trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my rent. I've got $266,000 in rent payment April 1st. And if you're telling me that this is all going to be over by the end of the year, and in December I have to pay 3 months rent in all my locations, I got the same problem. So I'm taking Trudeau at his word, and he says, everybody's got to share in the pain. So I'm asking my landlords to give us, 2-month rent abatement, and that hasn't been that well received. I've also, in most of my cases, I have, when I sign a lease, I have to pay 2 months rental deposit as a damage deposit. So a few of them, I've said, hey, what about putting my rent deposit towards my rent? Like, I got 10-year leases. Sometimes, that's 20 grand that's sitting there for 10 years and not collecting interest. I said, take that money and use that towards my rent now. And then we both don't lose. So I've got one landlord so far that's saying, you know what? I'm good with that. But that's kind of a brief summary, Stu.
Well, you've got suppliers. I'm sure that you've got supply contracts as well. So how do you wind up putting the brakes on all of that?
I'm applying today for BDC for the government loans. But again, those aren't interest-free. And so I'm trying to calculate, what my burn rate is. That's what they want to know. How much do you need for how long? The coffee contracts are really no different than rent contracts. They're a legally binding document, but fortunately, the coffee that I was just supposed to receive didn't get shipped. And I've been dealing with these people for 12 years. I said, is there any way you can sell the coffee to someone else? If I have to take the coffee, I will, but I can't pay you for it. And so they agreed not to ship it. But that's one of 10 contracts I have. So it's difficult.
How do you then turn that tap back on? Because you have no idea how long you have to leave it turned off.
Very true. I mean, fortunately, I have, in terms of coffee, I have 3 months supply sitting in Vancouver, which is what I always do. Um, some things that are more difficult though is like milk. So I deal directly with Avalon Dairy, but they need 3 weeks notice for me to change my orders. So I was able to stop the tap last week, but to get the tap back on, I've got a delay in terms of, and milk's a big part of my business.
What's the process that you go through to
I don't know.
prioritize the decisions that you have to make? Do they come cascading towards you, or do you create a list and say these are the things that I need to do first, so that I can ensure that I can get to the next group?
Yeah, I'm dealing with all sorts of problems as I've eliminated to you, but my number one priority, hopefully by the end of the day, is to get all the requirements for the BDC loan together, like the list of requirements that they want. And I don't blame them. They're giving away so much money is it's staggering. And personal guarantees that I have to provide, last 3 years' earnings, what my plan is. They want me to say, what's my sales going to be next month? What's my sales going to be May, June? And I'm like, I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible, but you tell me, are you going to close on my tomorrow? I don't know. Like I'm flying blind, and it's very scary. I've been in business, this is my 41st year, Stu, and never seen it like this. And thinking like so many other people, like it's like trying to hold water in your hands right now. It's just not staying there.
So let's go back and talk about the role that the banks can play in helping all of us who are in independent business try and find some way through this. Because if we don't have that financial support, I don't know what we can do.
I mean, my commercial bank has been really great. Both of them, I deal with Van City and TD. I have a credit line at Van City, and they said, hey, how about this? We'll take your interest and add it to, instead of you paying anything, every month we'll just add your interest to your credit line. I said, okay, well, that works a little bit. I mean, it gets me further into debt, but it means I don't have any cash I have to put out. My commercial bankers, TD, said, okay, how about we just charge you interest and you don't have to make any principal for 6 months. Again, it knocks the can down the road. And this is what I'm worried about, is if I have to keep and pay everybody by the end of December. Now, the banks are not saying that. They're allowing it to be deferring, like continue to defer, which is great. The landlords, though, who are dealing with the banks, are saying, hey, we'll give you rent if we want it all paid by the year. And that's the challenge, is it just basically says, am I going to go broke this month or going to go broke in December? Because there's no way that business is going to come back to more than 100% to be able to pay these huge rents that'll happen if they're deferred for 9 months.
How are you holding up?
I've had a few sleepless nights. I usually sleep like a baby, and definitely had some sleepless nights. I'm worried about my business. Yeah, it's business is kind of like one of your children. So, and I'm worried about my children too. A lot of them are in not as desperate need. I mean, one of them is a lawyer, one of them is in construction, and both of those business hasn't been hurt. But my son Jesse is in charge of all my operations in all the retail stores, and my other son James is helps build a lot of things and do special projects. So both of them are employed by the business.
Yeah. And then there's your staff. How many staff do you have in total?
I have 360 staff, and one of my Chris on my team, 16 years, and I just had to ask him if he'd taken a temporary layoff yesterday, and that just killed me. So he's got 2 kids and a wife at home, and Yeah, it's but everybody's feeling the pain. I mean, all my other staff, make less money than Grady does, and they're in very desperate, trying to make rent, trying to make groceries. It's There's no answers. There's no real answers. But I mean, I guess the cruel answer is just let this virus go crazy and do what it does. But no one wants to talk about that situation. But I don't know where I understand China's got, we thought China was the answer in terms of stopping everything. And I think I heard 45 new cases yesterday. So they might be starting up again.
Wow.
So the answers, we're leaving it to the medical people to do what's right, but it sounds like all we're trying to do is slow the curve, but it's going to come back.
Yeah, I know. It's very, very unnerving to know what to do, how to survive, how to keep our businesses afloat and support the people that we care about. And in your case, you've got a network of well over 500 people, from staff through to suppliers and landlords and so on. That's a lot of people. I want to encourage all of us who love your coffee to try and figure out some way that we can support you by, buying a pound of coffee or taking takeout coffee or whatever. Everything matters at this point.
It does. Online sales are going crazy, which is very nice. But we'd love you to come in if you can and get a coffee and keep your social distance and support our staff. I think one of the biggest problems right now that I just see so much of is staff. Our staff just need to be heralded. Everybody that comes in our stores need to say, thank you for working. Thank you for caring enough to be here, because they're fearful. And yet some staff are not being the nicest. Most are being really great, but some are not being nice. Like when we tell them, hey, we're not taking cash, they're like pissed off. We're trying to minimize any touching between customers. We're not taking travel mugs. I'm sorry. It's to go only. And they're getting mad because we're trying to do the right thing. So having respect and kindness to our staff would be the number one thing you could do for me. Just to make them feel better about doing what they're doing. No one likes confrontation. And this is not the time for confrontation. This is the time for everybody to say, thank you.
Well, thank you for doing all that you are, John, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stu.
Of course, my heart goes out to you, and my prayers are with you.
Thank you, sir.
I want you to get through this.
Yes.
We'll come out of it battered, but let's come out of it.
We will. We will. Okay. Thanks a lot, Stu. Take care.
Okay. Bye for now.